Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit TRE.radio.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
It is Tuesday, the 3rd of December. Welcome to Viewpoint Talk, Radio Europe's current affairs programme with a panel of guests where we discuss the issues of the day with you for the next 2 hours. Joined in the studio by Andres Gallardo and Dr. Jerry Hagan. On today's show, there's a whole smorgasbord of subjects to pick from this morning. We can do everything from Australia banning children from under 16 from using social media. I think that's a good idea. Do you think it's going to stop the curse of cyberbullying and much, much worse, children getting access to images that perhaps aren't acceptable for them or suitable for them? We'll be looking at the issue of cronyism on both sides of the pond, if you like. Of course, there was much alarm during Boris Johnson's government a couple of years back, but we have seen President-elect Trump putting in loyalists to his own party or to his own particular brand of MAGA, as well as the quite surprising announcement by President Joe Biden. He was going to pardon his son Hunter from all the charges he was being faced with, a possible prison term. Do you think cronyism has gone too far? Not only that, but we were looking at perhaps an assisted dying with new legislation passing the first hurdle on that particular emotive issue. Assisted dying, do you think it's a good step? Do you think it's going to, as some claim, puts the emphasis or clear the way for state-sponsored euthanasia? And if we've got time, we might look at the maelstrom that is the BBC at the moment, with the latest allegations. People demanding that MasterChef taken off air. Do you think this is 30 years after lad culture? This is a fallout from there. Do you think we have all gone too woke? Do you think banter is bantered, etc.? Love to hear from you. Plus any other issue that is getting you hot under the collar and you want to get your viewpoint across. These are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
But first off, let's have a look at the headlines, what the front pages are saying today in the UK and perhaps further afield. The majority of them, Prime Minister's foreign policy speech at the Lord Mayor's banquet prompts some contrasting headlines. Daily Telegraph sees as a warning from Sir Keir Starmer to Donald Trump that he will not side with America against the EU, despite calls from the President-elect's allies to choose between Brussels and Washington. But the interpretation by the Times is that Sir Keir's speech shows he wants even closer ties to the US. The paper highlights part of the speech where Sir Keir pledges to invest invest more deeply than ever in the special relationship between the two countries. The Prime Minister is facing accusations in the Daily Mail that he's presiding over what its headline calls government by talking shop. The paper says Labour has set up 67 reviews, task forces and consultations since winning the election. The Mail claims that even more are on the way in areas such as cutting the benefits bill. The former Conservative Minister, Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, tells the paper, to govern is to choose, not to review. Downing Street has rejected the Mail's suggestion that the reviews risk hindering progress in delivering Labour targets. The Guardian says ministers are considering caps on political donations as part of sweeping reforms to the UK electoral system. The paper says the Institute for Public Policy Research will recommend that ministers limit individual and corporate gifts to parties to £100,000 a year. It also reports on speculation that Elon Musk could donate $100 million to Reform UK. What the Daily Mirror calls the Greg Wallace sleaze row is still getting plenty of coverage. I'm sorry is the paper's headline, as it reports on the TV presenter's apology for branding his accusers middle-class women of a certain age. The Daily Express describes him as being under siege. And The Sun says BBC bosses defied MPs by airing an episode of MasterChef last night and refusing to pull Christmas specials in which Greg Wallace appears. The paper's cookery-themed headline is Boiling Point. A warning that higher energy bills are on the way to pay for the drive toward net zero emissions by 2030 is the top story for the Eye. Experts have told the paper that upfront costs for things like wind turbines and solar panels could lead to a short-term spike in bills. The Eye also reports it expects the Prime Minister to restate his promise to save consumers up to £300 on their bills in a speech this week. And The Times has a cautionary tale for vegans hoping to save the planet. It reports that meat and dairy substitutes can be worse for the environment than the real thing. The paper says a report by Oxford University found foods such as veggie burgers and oat milk were relatively bad for the climate. Veggie bacon and almond milk were assessed as being worse for the environment than the pork, bacon and dairy milk they were designed to replace. Experts tell the paper that climate-conscious customers should go for natural whole foods such as peas and soya beans. Those headlines from the top again then. The Times, Starmer, I want even closer ties with the US. The Daily Telegraph, Starmer, I will not side with Trump over Europe. The Financial Times, NATO chief warns Trump of threat to US if bad peace deal is forced on Kyiv. The Mirror, leading on Greg Wallace, I'm sorry. The Sun, BBC MasterChef scandal, boiling point. The Daily Mail, government by talking shop. Meanwhile, the Eye, higher energy bills on way to pay for 2030 net zero drive, PM is warned. The Guardian leads with UK cybersecurity chief issues stark warning over hostile state threats. The paper says the new GCHQ boss Richard Horne will accuse Russia of aggression and recklessness, and also warning of China's highly sophisticated digital attacks. The Metro leads differently with stalking victims. They'll be granted more protection, like knowing the right to know who their tormentor is if targeted online. So they've got no hiding place for stalkers. And finally, let's have a look at the Express and the Star, which we don't seem to have at the moment. So the Express and the Star, the front of the Express. The front of the Express leads with Greg Wallace says sorry for any offence caused, and the Star. The Star leads on new evidence that King Richard III had his nephews killed in the Tower of London. Breaking news: we had a hunch. Richard III was a real wrong un. Just 541 years late, King Dickie is well and truly fingered for murdering princes in the Tower, and those for better, worse, or anything else you care to throw into the mix are your headlines on this Tuesday, the 3rd of December.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And as I mentioned before, I am joined in the studio by Andres Gallardo. Good morning, Andres.
Good morning, Giles.
Sorry again. I'm joined in the studio by Andres Gallardo. Good morning, Andres.
Do I have to say it again?
No, you just there you are.
Very good morning to you.
Good to have you with us, Andres, in fighting spirit. And Dr. Jerry Hagan. Morning to you, Jerry.
Good morning, Giles. How are you?
I'm very well. Are we feeling Christmassy yet? The days have been playing Christmas records ad infinitum and we're only on day 3.
But I don't feel very Christmassy, but I do have to say that I'm enjoying the ever evolving lighting in the towns and cities, which they're quite spectacular in most places.
I was talking to a Spanish friend of mine the other day and saying we didn't used to do this. I mean, we didn't used to get excited about Christmas in Spain until sort of basically the 4th of January, the rays and whatever, and they've embraced. I mean, San Pedro looks like they've got the Death Star sitting in the middle of it last time I looked.
And Malaga is very spectacular as well. So
San Pedro's lights went on in November, which is getting earlier.
What happens if you're living on the on the Calle Larios, so you're living on that main drag in San Pedro, and you've got that Christmas music? I mean,
you need thick curtains.
You need thick curtains. Right. So a lot of things to talk about today, and if you want to get involved with the show, 952 78 4000 is the phone number. Now then, let's start off with what we could call cronyism, I suppose, because in a surprising move at the end of last week, Joe Biden, the President of the States, announced a full and unconditional pardon of his son at the end of Thanksgiving weekend, which is, for Americans, it's all about, as they say, it's all about family. Biden claims that his son was politically targeted because who he is, but it's a remarkable turnaround for the president following multiple denials that he would pardon his son. Andres, on the back of this, and also President-elect Trump putting in sort of extended members of his family into his close. They're putting them in as ambassadors, etc., around the place. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, my first thought is that Biden, during the campaign, was asked a number of times, many times, whether he was going to exercise the power to pardon his son, and repeatedly he said no. His campaign people said many times that he wasn't going to do it, and of course it's a U-turn, and he's done it. It is true that in the United States, funnily enough, in Spain we do have the figure of the pardon from the executive power, i.e. the government, to have it applied, and it is exercised that, but such a U-turn and going against his word of not going to give the pardon to his son, I think they're going to suffer. The Democrats for that particular for this particular issue in years to come. Don't forget, the United States have got the midterm in a couple of years. I think the Democrats will be reminded of what Biden has just done, and again in 4 years' time. 3 years, because the campaign starts a year before the election. They're going to be reminded of that, and it's not going to help the party in general to do something like that. Having said that, what do I think about the pardon figure that governments have got? I don't. We've had, sorry to bring this to Spain, but we've had this situation with the leaders of the secession process in Catalonia in 2017, which were condemned to, some of them, to 13 years in prison by the Supreme Court, only to be reversed by the government on the basis of, I'm going to do the inverted commas here, but you can't see it, on the basis that it was in the public interest to have them pardoned. Now, in my opinion, this is making a mockery of the judicial system and the laws and the laws of the land. If the executive power can then reverse sentences, in the case of Biden, it's even worse, because is any future crimes that he might be accused, he also will be pardoned. So, to be honest, it's a figure that should, in this day and age, I think it should disappear, and allow the judiciary to be completely independent and to apply the laws of the land. And once somebody is sentenced, they should carry out the sentence without interference from the executive powers.
Yes, I mean, the interesting thing as well about this whole thing with Biden, I mean, you went off on several tangents, which I'll try to bring back in again, but if you look at the announcement he made as well after meeting with Trump, he was going to give Ukraine the medium-range missiles to be able to strike within Russian-held territory. I mean, do you think that Biden is just saying, okay, well, I'm going to really sort of mix things up here before the end of his term? Because it must be the Democrats, the top brass of the Democrats must be shaking their heads and said, get him out as soon as possible, sooner rather than later. Jerry,
it's a strange thing for Joe Biden to do. I mean, he's leaving, he's retiring. He'll want to be remembered as a good president and the good things he did, but the last thing he does is give his son a pardon. Now, I wouldn't conflate what happened in Spain, the Catalonians, that was a political move. But Hunter Biden, he was convicted of, when he applied for a gun license, he lied about his drug convictions in the past. Oh, why did they need a gun in the first place? I mean, what did they think was going to happen? He's a famous figure and it's going to be found out. So he must have thought, I'm above the law. Yeah. The whole Biden thing now, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth, because Joe Biden said quite correctly, he can't be pardoned. Oh no, I've pardoned him. That's now opened the floodgates for Trump to come in and pardon an awful lot of people, especially people involved in the Washington riots.
Yeah, the January 6th thing, yeah.
Right. He's going to let them out now, because he said, well, Joe Biden could do it, I can do it. I can do it even more, because I'm the greatest pardoner in the world and all that stuff.
Well, I mean, if you remember, sort of a battle cry was always Hunter Biden's laptop. That was the cry amongst opponents. I mean, what was on his laptop? What was his dealings with Ukraine? It's a controversial figure. We know he's been in tabloid parlance. He's had a troubled upbringing so far with drug and whatever abuse. But this is going to be, people are going to remember Joe Biden now, his presidency, for the fact that he kept on for so long when he wasn't in the best of states, and B, these final acts and pardoning his son. Looks like cronyism at its worst. Andres?
I do agree with Jerry in the sense that he's opening the door for Trump to then turn around and say, well, if he did that, I can do these, So we are entering into almost a tennis match here, where, this figure can be misused, and this is a figure that has been in place for a long time, but it's never created a great controversy until you got cases like, I'm pardoning my son, or I'm letting convicted criminals for very serious crimes out of jail because politically is something that interests me. So misusing the figure of the pardon or the power of the figure of the pardon can lead to that misuse in the future, and making a mockery of the judicial system.
And when it comes to, is it Christmas or Easter? There's a pardon in Spain, isn't there? There's always one prisoner who gets pardoned. I think it's Christmas.
Christmas or New Year. I think it could be
more sense.
Yeah, Easter would be more sense. Yeah, make more sense. So 3 days after.
Yeah, don't quote me on that. There is a time when there is.
But it's supposed to be a largesse thing, isn't it? Not to say, okay, I am supreme ruler, and as a final act, I'm going to get myself.
No, it's someone who has got a case. As I said before, I think the ruling here in Spain is in the public interest to have this person pardoned for whatever reason, but it's so vague that you can throw in what in the public interest. You can throw in whatever you want there and make up that it's in the public interest. In the case of the United States, I don't know what the criteria they must follow some kind of criteria, not just because it's my son, but it seems to be the case in the case of Hunter. It's my son. There must be pressure in the family from the wife and everything else. Come on, let the boy, go back home.
Remember, the wife was a stepmother. His mother died when he was young.
Yeah, I'm not following the family tree of the Bidens very closely, as you can see, but
but the other thing you mentioned earlier was Trump cronyism. When you become a new president or prime minister, whatever, you put people around you. Now, what the two completely different approaches. One is to find people who represent all points of view in the party, etc., etc. Or you can bring in people you know and trust. Now, Trump has experience of bringing in good people before, who then realise how bad Trump was, and then go ahead and criticise him and give him a hard time from all sorts of very senior positions. So he's not going to make that mistake again. But then this is becoming the absolute opposite of democracy. The democracy in the ancient Greeks meant that social groups could have their say and represent different parts of society, and then elect. Trump is doing the exact opposite. He's only surrounding himself with people that he likes, and it's him. So he's becoming almost a dictator.
But if you think of how that first term that Donald Trump went through was, his first term as the president, The turnover of staff at the White House was quite something. I mean, we had so many people coming and going through revolving doors there. Perhaps he's learned his lessons this time round, and is saying, right, this time round, I'm getting people who are loyal to me, who are.
Yeah, the other lesson would be to be a better person.
Well, I mean,
so that's not up for debate. So I'll just surround people who do what I tell them.
Yeah, Trump, by the way, responded to the Hunter Biden pardon as calling it an abuse and a miscarriage of justice. Unsurprisingly, Republicans attacking what they're seeing as great hypocrisy, having listened to Democrats dismiss Trump's claim that justice was being weaponized against him. So that's where at the moment. But it's going to be very interesting, and this whole situation. You can argue that political parties have done that as well for years. But in the UK we tend to give peerages to supporters of the parties. If you give a certain amount to the Conservative Party or the Labour Party, you're in line for a peerage. Whereas obviously that can't be done in the States, so they'll make you ambassador to France, for example,
or London.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got the big supporters and advisors and so on of governments being rewarded with cushy job. Kushti, yeah.
Where did a Spaniard using the word kushti?
That's from Only Fools and Horses, actually.
Yes.
But no, it's they all do it, and in the UK it's obvious what they do. In Spain they give them positions like the head of the Paradores was a state-run hotel chain. To be the president of that, it's always someone who's been either a minister or a close advisor or something. So it's a just nice little job for someone. There's not a lot to do because the hotel chain is run by it runs itself, and there's a big salary and expenses and everything. So it's almost like a reward for services to the government. There are others, I mean, like the Hippodrome in Madrid as well. It's a political appointed director there, and again, it's almost like a reward. I mean, all of that should be scrapped, you don't. You give the service to the government as an advisor or a minister or whatever your position is. You get paid for the job, you finish the job, and you go back to your normal life. Your service is finished. You don't have to be rewarded generously like in these jobs that's
the idea of service. You went into politics for service to better your ask not for what your nation can do for you, what you can do for the nation, which is obviously JFK.
Yeah, but in my opinion, going into politics should be an altruistic service that you want to provide, and not a career. And now you look at 95% of politicians around the world, they're career politicians. Some of them haven't had a job in their lives outside the political arena. Of course, you have to have politicians because that's an important part of life. But just to have 4 years in power, in a position that you sign yourself up for, and then just to have a reward on a big salary position, whether it is in a state company or in big companies who have benefited from your time as a minister. That's another one open to
be fair,
discussion.
I think a lot of politicians, maybe I'm being cynical here, are altruistic when they first go into it, but the reality of the job and the machinations and the deals, etc., you have to do, it becomes something else. And all the principles you thought you stood for and were going to do, you realise are not achievable. You're a bit naive, and we have to play the game now. But you're hitting a pet subject of mine. Like, there are far too many people, well, say the UK anyway, who are MPs who went to university, did law or politics or PPE, etc. And then what am I going to do for a career? Let's do journalism, and now let's do politics, etc. So there's no
lowest wrongs about it. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll do journalism. Thanks for that,
I will say journalism to check if
looking
Charles
across the studio.
Charles is listening. But a pet hate of mine is that in Parliament there are not enough scientists, engineers, and mathematicians, etc. What do you call the guy who helped Boris Johnson get in power, who got sacked? Dominic Cummings. Dominic Cummings. Yeah. That was his point about the civil servants and politicians. They're far too niche a group of educated people who get these jobs, and it's not widespread enough. But you need we're drifting away from Trump, aren't we?
Yeah, we're drifting away from
Biden.
Let's look at some of the stuff coming in as well. Good morning to everyone. Cookie sends good morning to the panel. Good morning, Cookie.
Good morning, Cookie.
Good to have you with us. Meanwhile, just a message from Sam says, brilliant. I'm not sure if that's you, me, everybody, or just the sun outside. Yes. Kushti. Yes, Kushti. You set off Kushtigate here now.
Oh, yeah, that's a good thing.
I'm being sent only for the horses memes with getting down with the kids there. Thank you so much. What was it?
David, down with the kids.
David Jason. Was it David Jason? Yeah, David Jason said he can. He's always got the ghost of Rodney Trotter on him, because when he walks down the street, he can hear Del Boy saying, "Go on, say bonjour to somebody." Bonjour. Meanwhile, these coming in. Why do vegetarians / vegans need to imitate the real thing? This is about the story I had before. Also, right, okay. So this was a U-turn for obvious reasons. Trump won't stop on destroying the Bidens. Trump won't stop on destroying the Bidens when he takes office. So Joe is taking action to stop that. So Trump should be in jail by the argument you were presenting, Andres. What's the excuse now? Why did he need a gun in the first place? Because it's America, Jerry. He won't be remembered for that. He'll be remembered for mumbling on a 2-day debate and losing the election. Okay. Trump hasn't learned anything. He's appointed nutcases and repeating the same mistakes as before, i.e. tariffs, which won't work and make your own nation poorer. And then somebody said, altruistic Trump, laugh out loud. Companies benefiting has already happened before Trump has sat in his new throne. Musk made $60 billion on the Tesla share price. So those are a couple of the comments coming in, panel.
I totally agree with the one who made a comment saying, by what I'm saying, Trump should be in jail. Yes. Yes, there's a sentence.
Just so you know, listeners, you can't call in on the WhatsApp, so don't try calling me in on the WhatsApp number. If you want to call in, 952 78 4000. Take a quick break and then back with more Viewpoint.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Always live. It's to the lines we go. Morning, calling live in TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling? What's your viewpoint, please?
Good morning, it's John in Benavista. Hi.
Morning, John. How are you doing?
I'm very good. The sun is shining as always. Right, okay, well, I totally disagree with your previous caller. Trump should not be in jail. The whole DOJ was weaponized, thanks to the crooked Democratic Party and the crooked Biden crime family. And I wonder why he's pardoned his son. Well, because of his and Joe's involvement in Burisma. Absolutely.
In what, sorry?
Doubt. In Burisma,
right? The
Ukrainian, I think, this petrochemical company.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and if you ask Steve Ritson, he'd say there's no evidence, but the evidence is there. There are emails absolutely categorically proving that the big guy is Joe Biden, and millions and millions of dollars were passed into private accounts, offshore accounts. I mean, the whole family are corrupt. Which basically explains why Joe Biden has made this ridiculous ruling that, his son should be pardoned and for crimes in the future, because the Trump's team will expose them, without a doubt.
Thank you for your call in there. 952 78 4000 is the phone number. If you want to get involved with the show, here indeed are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And coming back on that last caller saying if Biden is corrupt, then what is Trump? Well, president-elect, I suppose. It just leaves a sour taste in the mouth, doesn't it, panel, about this whole thing about these pardons, and it doesn't set a good precedent for the president, if you know what I'm saying.
No, it doesn't, and the fact that it's his son who's pardoning it makes it even worse, in my opinion. And as I said before, it's opening a can of worms there, where anyone can say, well, if he pardoned his son, I can pardon this one, and we are into a spiral of pardons that can be used politically. And makes the most important thing is it makes a mockery of the whole system, the separation of powers, the theory of Montesquieu, which is all the basis of the democracies in the West, where the judiciary is separate from the legislature and executive, and so on. So if you are going to start ruling out the sentences of the judges, you are entering into a spiral where the separation of powers cease to exist, and the modern concept of democracy as we know it stops here. A lot of people will argue, oh, it's already happening and everything else, but let's keep the basis of it, which has worked for many, many years, and that the three different powers have got their job to do. So parliaments, they legislate, the governments execute the laws, and the judiciary will judge on the basis of the laws that have been passed by Parliament, who are the ones who represent the people who have voted for them. So if we get out of those that basic structure, we're entering into a very difficult terrain.
And it will also make people increasingly cynical about democracy if you start doing this sort of thing, because you're going to say, well, look at them all. I mean, Biden just... his son commits a crime and he gets pardoned. Trump is surrounding himself with all sorts of people who are his mates. So this is an elite. Elite is a word that's often used, but he's creating his own elite of his own mates. So it's a clique, privileged, free and above the law. It's a suspicion people are above the law. Trump's not been in jail. Biden's son's not in jail. Well, these guys are above the law. But if I was a black guy living in downtown New York, I would be in jail a long time ago.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because this whole thing about these elites, and this can only sort of play into the hands, don't you think, of I mean, with Musk saying he's going to the possibility of Musk giving $100 million to reform and Farage, because that is reform is a party that says, oh well, they're all in a bubble, etc., and therefore we need to have a strong man, a new man to drain the swamp, sweep the room clean, etc.
But legally, that's not possible. A foreigner can't give money to a UK politician or a UK party. What Trump would have to do is get it paid through X or something like that. He can't do it himself. Yeah,
it must.
That'd
be a hell of a PayPal account, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But again, that's bending the rules. The point is, we all know it's who's doing it, but the company apparently paying for it. But we know why and who it is. So that's bending the rules again, and making people cynical.
Yeah, but yes,
cynical.
Spanish politics.
The rules. I'm sorry, I'm going to bring it to Spain again because there is a point there. The bending the rules and using the exceptions of the rules is become the norm. If you look at Spain, for instance, there is the figure of the law decree, which the government can pass laws without going through Parliament. This is done for cases of emergency. That happened during COVID, for instance. It's an emergency situation. We have to legislate very quickly. We do it through. Now, because in Spain, the parliament is so fragmented and they cannot get any laws through Parliament, the government are abusing the figure of the law decree, and all they do is law decrees now, which is abusing the system. And there should be a way of stopping abusing the system. So it's an ongoing growing thing that we're destroying the basis of the separation of powers constantly. The more we do it, the more we are entering into a spiral where governments will end up dictating everything in every aspect of the separation, becoming just one thing instead of three different things.
And not just Spain. France yesterday are like pushing through the budget without going through Parliament, which is not going to cause an uproar. That may fragment their democracy as well. But the other cynical point is obviously not just internally from the normal voters, but overseas, other countries don't run democracies, and then they'll look at you and say, you say you're democracy, look at Trump, look at what these guys do. You call that democracy? That's just for show. We're running this country where we want to run.
But people say this about, we're not a real democracy and a deep state and whatever. But the people who say this have the right to say that because we're in a democracy. Whereas if you're an autocratic state, you can go, Putin's Russia, it's you cannot, it is a crime to say, chaps, I think pushing to Kyiv might have been not a great move, etc. And so all these people are saying it's not a democracy and we need to be careful what you wish for, just saying it. People saying we need to throw out all these systems and drain the swamp and everything else is corrupt. Well, be careful, because suddenly you might turn around and find that the systems that have been keeping a democracy going for the past 100 years, past 200 years, and you're not going all the way back to the Greeks or whatever, but if those go, then, like I said, you could find yourself in real trouble. Andres, you're shaking your head at me.
Yeah, but just being here is a demonstration that we live in a democracy, because we are here discussing, having our opinions on our viewpoint, and you got callers who have their viewpoint and everything. Everything is, this freedom of speech is one of the cornerstones of democracy, and that's what we're exercising here, which is a good thing. Now that you mentioned France, in France they do have a problem, because this vote of no confidence is going to happen in Parliament there, as opposed to other countries where a vote of confidence has to be presented by an alternative government. Here in France has to go back to the president, who has to, if that's successful, has to appoint another prime minister, and that is a system that is not going to work for Macron in this particular case, because the ball is going to be thrown back at him, where we'll have to appoint, where in Spain, for instance, if there is a vote of no confidence, is with an alternative to be voted in. But in France, that is not an alternative to vote in. Say, we don't want this guy, Macron, sort it out. So it's a different thing, and Macron is going to have a big problem if this goes through, as it appears that it will be.
952 78 4000 to the WhatsApps and to the internet we go. It's an interesting one. Thank you for this one, Paul. Republicans are saying that Biden is setting a precedent by pardoning his son, but it's nothing new. Richard Nixon pardoned Jimmy Hoffa. Okay, the Teamsters boss. Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon before he was charged. Jimmy Carter pardoned thousands of Vietnam War conscientious objectors, the guys who fled to Canada, there's a lot of them as well. Bill Clinton pardoned his half-brother Roger Clinton. Barack Obama pardoned Chelsea Manning. Donald Trump pardoned his son's father-in-law, Charles Kushner. Thanks for this one. Also, arguably, Jerry, he's filling the swamp. Reform aren't technically a party. They're a limited company, and Uncle Nige, cuddly Uncle Nige, owns 60% of it, hence the ease on getting rid of Tice as a leader. Thank you for sending this as well. This is the statement from Biden, which he says, I'll just read it quickly. Today I signed a pardon for my son Hunter. From the day I took office, I said it would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making, and I kept my word, even as I have watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Without aggravating factors like use in a crime, multiple purchases, or buying weapons, a straw purchaser People are almost never brought to trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form. Those who are late paying their taxes because of serious addictions but paid them back subsequently with interest and penalties are typically given non-criminal resolutions. It's clear that Hunter was treated differently. The charges in his case came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them to attack me and oppose my election. Then, a carefully negotiated plea deal agreed by the Department of Justice unravelled in the courtroom with a number of my political opponents in Congress taking credit for bringing political pressure on the process. Had the plea deal held, it would have been a fair, reasonable resolution of Hunter's cases. No reasonable person who looks at the fact of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he's my son, and that is wrong. There's been an effort to break Hunter, who's been 5.5 years sober, even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecution. In trying to break Hunter, they try to break me, and there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough. For my entire career, I have followed a simple principle: just tell the American people the truth. They'll be fair-minded. Here's the truth. I believe in the justice system, but as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process and led to a miscarriage of justice. And once I made this decision this weekend, there was no sense in delaying it further. I hope Americans will understand why a father and the president would come to this decision. Interesting indeed. To the lines we go. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
It's Peter. Just one thing about the pardons. It's actually in the US Constitution, which was adopted in 1789, so over 230 years ago.
Yeah.
It's Article 2, subsection 2 of the US Constitution. Also, pardoning a crime does not mean that they did not commit a crime. They still committed the crime, but they've just been pardoned for it. It still appears on their record. They still, if it results in a travel ban, they can't go to certain countries, etc. It's not an aberration of democracy. It is in the democracy. It was adopted by the 13 original states, the 37 states that joined it afterwards, all the territories like Puerto Rico and etc. So what he's done is a precedent over 200 years old. I don't agree with it. Obviously, when Trump gets in, he's going to pardon all the January the 6th rioters, etc. It's just something you have to accept. It's something in the Constitution that they can do. That's really...
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you much for your call in there.
There's no argument about that. I mean, we said at the beginning, the figure of the pardon is it's there. It's obviously legal in this case in the Constitution. In Spain exists as well. I imagine that in many countries will exist the same figure of the pardon. But to pardon your son doesn't look very good in terms of what you're trying to achieve. And also there is in the statement that you said something, this is Biden saying this is an obvious miscarriage of justice.
Yeah.
It's not for the president to say it's a miscarriage of justice. In any case, it would be for the judges to review on appeal if appeal is something that can be done in this particular case. I haven't followed the whole case, so I don't know what stage of appeals there are, but that will have to be decided there and not by a statement of the president saying this is a miscarriage of justice.
I also believe raw politics has infected this process and it led to a miscarriage of justice. Raw politics.
I remember there was a deal agreed and then it fell apart. Now I don't know why or how or who interfered or whatever, so there is a certain amount of truth in veracity of what he's saying.
Going to take a quick break and then back with the last, less than 10 minutes of the first half of today's Viewpoints.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Knived, always live, always lively, joined in the studio by Andres Gallardo and Dr. Jerry Hagan. Naive to believe the American public is fair-minded when many are cult fans of Donito, the Trump-appointed judges, Andres. Yes, Supreme Court judges, no, presumably.
They do. Yeah, of course. That's how the system works. But they're
only when there's a vacancy. You can't replace the guys that are already there. They've got a limited term, but you can't take them out before the end of the term.
If you want to
and their job has to be to apply the laws of the land.
Yeah,
they cannot deviate from that. It cannot be blatant because that can be sort of tried for misusing the power as judges.
And they have to be qualified judges as well. You can't just appoint these mates.
The powers are interlinked in the sense that you pass a law and the judge has to apply that law and uphold the law as he sees fit, but he cannot deviate from that. How you appoint them in different countries have got different systems of appointing judges. So I'm not arguing that point. Yes, of course, we all know that.
The point is how is going to get a fair appeal. So
who's going to get?
I don't know. Anyway, it's the lines we go. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
It's Peter again.
Yeah, Peter.
Sorry, Jerry. They don't have terms. A Supreme Court judge is appointed for life.
Sorry, I meant when I meant term. I meant life. You can't just pull them in and out whenever you feel like it. Sorry, no, you're right, Peter.
But they can retire, of course. But generally, they die in office, or the last few have.
Yeah,
anyway.
or they retire.
Or they retire.
Yeah.
Not in the office. No,
not. Thanks.
No, very doubtful. Cheers.
Thanks for that one. Thanks for that call. And if you want to get involved with today's show, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
952 78 4000, live and always lively, trying to cut our way through the interesting points that are, of course, which are the current situation with the pardon. So how do you think it's going to pan out, Andres? What do you think is going to... do you think there's going to be even more repercussion? What do you think Biden's going to pull out next out of the hat? I mean, I
don't know if he's going to get anything else out of the hat. I don't know. What he's setting, in my opinion, is the precedent of the use of the pardon that can justify others, in this particular case Trump, to issue pardons on the basis that, well, if Biden can pardon his son at the last minute of his presidency, I can do basically whatever I want.
This is the problem, surely.
So
he's got carte blanche. That's what I'm saying earlier. He'll make a meal of Joe Biden and what he's done, and go ahead and replicate it and multiplicate it.
And another thing is that the voters out there, the Democrat voters who have heard many times that wasn't going to happen, for the last minute to have that U-turn, are they going to forgive that very quickly, or are we going to see a result of this action now in 2 years' time with the midterm elections happen?
The thing is, with the states, though, the Democrats got to take a long, hard look at how they had this election. It backfired quite spectacularly with them on the way they went down that whole. They misjudged it supreme. You can argue that Biden should have gone earlier, but at the same time, the focus of those elections was on progressive attitudes or progressive policies. And at the end of the day, at the moment in the States, as the saying goes, it's the economy's stupid, which is a thing.
Same here. And the other phrase comes to mind: a week's a long time in politics. I mean, by the time, in 2 years' time, the Democratic Party will have investigated itself, inquired, analysed what's wrong, have new people, and the new people will have no connection with Biden. So I don't think people in the US are concerned about voting for the Democrats will be influenced in 2 years' time by Joe Biden pardoning his son. I think we've forgotten all about that, especially if Trump starts pardoning people all over the place.
Yeah, indeed. But it's going to be very interesting to see how the Democrats sort of realign themselves and come back. Because if you saw Kamala Harris's post-election defeat broadcast about "you have the power, you didn't lose the power," it's sort of reminded. One commentator said it was like having your drunk girlfriends when somebody's been ditched, saying "yeah, I sound a little bit tipsy on too much Lambrusco," going I shouldn't say that because that's pretty middle class women of a certain age. Yeah, but
don't say that again, Greg.
Don't say that again, Greg. Bald-headed presenters whose names begin with G, Volume 1. So the phones are going off, so I shall go onto the line again. Just to remind you can't call in on the WhatsApp, by the way. It doesn't work to take phone calls, but we go live to the lines again. Morning, calling live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Hello, it's John again in Benavista.
Hello, John again in Benavista.
Yeah, I think we're sort of missing the point here. Yes, you can understand a loving father pardoning his crooked son. We can't get away from that. But the point is that any sort of future crimes will also be disregarded. And because Biden and the family, the whole family, because they're all involved, they are scared that all the truth will come out concerning the laptop, which at the time, if you remember, social media blanked it, and it was called Russian disinformation. And we now know that that's not true. The laptop did exist, and everything else that goes along with the laptop is true. But obviously, the media and social media, they kept it from the public, which is electoral interference. But I think they realise that Trump's DOJ, they will...
We're coming to the end of the first half of those bongos, so thank you very much for your call in. We'll be back after the second, after the national and international news. Stay tuned for more Viewpoint.
Talk Radio Europe.
Your voice in Spain. Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
Welcome back, second half of Viewpoint with me, Giles Brown, live from studios of TRE Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain, a democratic institution, I believe, as opposed to benign dictatorship. We're just discussing off air the benefits of democracy. However, my two protagonists today are Andres Gallardo and Dr. Jerry Hagan. Andres, you're about to come.
Protagonists.
Wrong with Mike. Go and say again. Protagonists.
Protagonists.
Oh, I don't know. Just
I like that.
Do you like that?
Yeah,
I was going to say gladiators in the harsh glare of the whatever. So now some bits and pieces coming in. Lawrence O'Donnell. Joe Biden obviously decided his son should not be subjected to a malicious Trump witch hunt, which Donald Trump promises will be malicious and unfair. Let's move on from this, because otherwise we could spend the rest of the week talking about this one. Indeed. Let's move on to some other issues. If you want to get involved with the show, 952 78 4000 is the phone number. Is the phone number. Now this is crossed. This has been bubbling under for a couple of weeks now. This is the new law that's going to come in Australia, which will ban children under 16 from using social media. The Parliament approved the world's strictest laws. The ban, which won't take effect for at least 12 months, could see tech companies fined up to £25 million if they don't comply. That's around about 50 million Australian dollars. Now, this is going to be... And if you are the parent of teens, you have my sympathies. But if you are the parent of teens, or you have children who have access to the internet, this is going to be pretty much unenforceable, wouldn't you say? Who wants to kick off with this one, Jerry?
Completely unworkable. I don't understand how it could even work. It may put pressure on the companies themselves to try and be more strict with what they're doing and look more closely. I can understand the motivation and the idea, but an idea turning into reality, how is that ever going to work?
Well, it's kind of like saying, we're going to stop you listening to a radio station.
Yeah. No.
I mean, short of taking away all radios, and I suppose the thing is you'd have to have proof of ID before you had it. But if all those, it's a bit like, I would imagine it's a bit like, heaven forfend, that when you used to stand outside off licence and say, "Here, mister,
yep,
will you go and get me a packet of fags or 20 tenants super? We were hardcore where we come from."
I had that recently, funnily enough. A kid asking me to get a packet of cigarettes on a
be very careful how you phrase this, Andrew.
Which I refused.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, why?
Okay.
No.
Double the offer?
No.
Save for €50,
What's in it for me?
What's in it for me? Yeah.
No, but it's you're right. The social media thing. It's very, very difficult, Jerry. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. But this will evolve once it's established that can cause harm. I thought about it with cigarettes, for instance. When I was a kid, you could go to a sweet shop and buy a packet of chocolate cigarettes.
Yeah, well, so the way they got you in.
You would play at pretending you're smoking, but there's chocolate inside, so you would eat the chocolate. But the packet came of the format of a cigarette packet and everything. All these has evolved, so social media will have to evolve and identify the harmful side of it and sideline it, but it's not going to go away. That's for certain. So we're going to have to learn to live with it in a positive way.
But you can't do that. Cigarettes and alcohol, to paraphrase Oasis, are a fine. You can hold cigarettes and alcohol in your hand. It's a finite thing. You can, if you want to ban them, you can put them behind a screen or something like that. The internet, you can't. It is, it is pervasive. It is everywhere. How are you going to say?
That was the point of the internet, so that everybody could have access to all information, free from governments, etc., politicians, free from the law, and now we're saying, well, there's laws. Oh, you've got to have laws. I mean, and undoubtedly some children have been harmed. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But in general, I don't think there's been a huge... I think it's exaggerated sometimes by the media about how harmful the internet has been.
I mean, I know of, because obviously I'm not blessed with children, but I know friends who are saying, for example, let's look at some bits and pieces in here. Cyberbullying. Now, if when we were at school, obviously when dinosaurs ruled the world, walked the earth, but when we were at school, if you were bullied, it was at school, and it stayed at school. And when you got out the school gates, you went and told somebody, and, my dad's bigger than your dad, etc. But it ended there. But with mobile technology and the kids having smartphones, it means that cyberbullying will continue, will absolutely keep going. And this has had massive mental impacts on young people. I know that. And also, in terms of the way that certain stuff that shouldn't be seen by very young people on the internet, I'm talking obviously pornography sites here, are skewing the way that young people look at relationships as well. Yeah. And have turbocharged that sort of some really sort of inappropriate behaviour, etc. And this is stuff that you didn't come into contact with when you were in your early teens, and that's causing a whole other range of problems, as well as controlling behaviours.
You've got magazines.
Yeah, I know, but those were all. I as a small child, I've always been 5 foot nothing. Mm-hmm. So therefore, top shelf was unless I had a trampoline.
It didn't used to be the top shelf. It became top shelf later.
Right. Okay. Well, Jerry, obviously, thank you for sharing that insight into your.
Been around longer than you.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, but it is clear that it's very difficult to control the content goes in there and the distribution of the content that goes in there. We're gonna have to live with it. we're going to have to learn how to manage all that. The same with AI. AI is not going away, so it's going to have to be introduced in the education curriculum to be used in a constructive way. Social media will have to be. There's an element of education there that there's going to have to take an important part of the education of children to be able to use it. To use it correctly, but it is, as I said, Jerry, you're right. How can you put a lid on to it?
So there is one thing you could do. What there isn't at the moment is if you have a problem with something else with a company, for example, you can phone customer services, but there's no a way that a youngster who's been bullied can make a complaint, press a button, say I'm being bullied. And if they could do that, then in Australia, the companies would be then forced to go and check and who are the bullies, identify the anonymous one, report it to the police or take action, whatever's necessary, or just cease and desist, or you'll be cut off from Facebook or whatever, TikTok. Yeah. There isn't a system whereby you can make a complaint, and I think that would be valuable to be able to do, and not that difficult, but enforcing the law where 16-year-olds couldn't get access. I mean, right, what are you going to say? What's your date of birth? Okay, I'm in. Right.
Well, I suppose they did the same way. If you get an online bank, you can get a banking app on your phone. It'd be a PayPal, Revolut, whatever, Bizum, whatever you call it, that sort of thing. But the other thing is the fact that these 2 points. One is that legislation is working slower than the technology. So by the time legislation has lumbered into law, technology's gone so far down the line. And the second point is because the providers of these services, the people who put these online, are going to say, if you are a site of adult content, or if you are, a social media provider, saying, look, we're just putting it out there. It's not it's not our problem. If I'm a Facebook, a Meta, an X, a Threads, or whatever I am, they have been claiming, that we're just the provider. What goes on there, and that's got to be changed.
The facilitator, not even the provider.
It's interesting what Jerry said about there is no customer service complaint department that you can phone in and say, I've got a problem with that. The customer complaint department is the police. If we are turning the police into a customer complaint department, it's like an extra job that we're giving
the police. But my point was to make it the company's problem to police themselves, not to go to the police force. Because the
question is, how are they going to do that? It's in their interest to do that.
Well, $50 million says it might.
Yeah, well, but I mean, you got a situation like recycling, for instance,
right,
where companies produce products that they come to you with all the packaging that says this is all recyclable, but the ownership of the recycling is in the consumer, not in the producer of the product. With these, we are having the same situation with these. The provider provides you with a service. Any problems or anything that you have to do, you have to sort yourself out.
Yeah.
That's why I said before, the education will have to take a big part, especially for children and young adults, to be able to manage all that information and to be able to, sort of live with it in a positive way, because otherwise we're going to have a generation fed by fake news and stories circulating in the internet. Let's not forget that watching less and less the national TV and normal media outlets, which need, I mean, you can criticize those as much as you like, but most of them need to fact check what they publish, and say where in the internet there's not so much fact checking. You can post basically whatever you want to post, whether it's true or not, with no consequences. So you have a generation being fed all that rubbish, is going to have a consequence. So it's not going to go away. So the only solution, rather than restrict and to control, is just to educate people to be able to manage all that amount of information.
not going to happen. It's not just that generation. I mean, remember, Giles, during COVID, the number of interesting scientific views, in inverted commas, scientific views that we would get on the station.
People don't. You remember the thing? Do your research. That was the thing. So
do your fact check.
Do your fact check.
I bet there's Deborah Meaden put something on the other day about climate change. You know, the woman from Dragon's Den, and so on X, and like she was immediately criticised by 1 million people saying climate change was all fake, etc.
Yeah,
like,
well, that's
and these are adults, not 15-year-olds.
Yeah, but the thing with a lot of the problem with X at the moment is the fact that it has become very much. It's the actual algorithm X has changed quite dramatically over the past 2 years. So if you
due to a person,
due to a certain interference by a certain person, but it's gone from being the town square, as it was famously called, when everybody could call that, to something like the city gutter. But there you go. If you want to get involved today's show, here are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
These coming in. Thank you for some rundown of some fine titles in the publishing history, in the annals. I said annals of publishing history. Isn't there Childline? Okay. Arguably, if the producer didn't produce it, it wouldn't be litter. Okay. We have excess waste, especially in packaging. Nobody's interested in facts. It's all about feelings, baby. So you got facts, alternative facts, and whatever else. So where do you think we're going to go there? I mean, do we need to have are we going to have to? Our parents are going to have to confiscate their kids, because kids are going to get around this, aren't they?
Of course they will. And when they tried to just put a stop to access porn sites before a certain age, I thought you might have a classroom with 25 pupils. Well, they all have their phones controlled by the parents, and they put a stop to those phones getting access to porn sites. But you get 24 with those, and you get one who's got the access. The cat is out of the bag, and that's going to be circulated. So very, very difficult to put a lid onto this. And the other platforms the same, TikTok, Facebook, whatever, you mention it. And I have to say, I've never been a fan of social media. I don't have any social media myself. Simply, it's a personal decision. I looked at it. I thought, I'm not interested in these, so I don't have it. But I can understand that kids are very attracted by that way of socializing, and one thing leads to another. So you can only educate them on how to use it. Or if you have another...
But part of being a teenager is to challenge the rules and break the rules. I mean, it's part of being a teenager. I like to have rules, but I want to see how far I can go and break them. It's part of your personality as a human. And so if you put a rule down, I'll see if I can get around that and show my mates I can beat that or whatever,
But again, the other thing is the fact that we don't know the long-term implications it's going to have on a generation of children, because social media has been going, this sort of Facebook, Instagram, whatever, TikTok has been going really for 10 years or so. The implications this might have on mental health or whatever else are surely. I mean, we're seeing more and more anxiety, and children or young adults being diagnosed with anxiety, ADHD, etc. Now, some would argue, well, that's because they didn't, back in the day that wasn't an option, and now they are. But we are only now at the beginning to see what sort of long-term impact this will have on young person's mental health, because we have to teach people that there's an off button, because at the moment, there seems to be there's no stopping. He said, reaching for his phone and picking up something else. There's no stopping young people just doing that, and we all see everybody on their phones looking down, and we all see kids, especially young adults, TikToking and selfieing and whatever else, and we don't know the long-term mental and physical health implications. Andreas?
Well, it'll be interesting to see the people who are now 20 who have lived with social media, mobile phones and so on, without any kind of restrictions. And when it was seen as a correct thing to do by parents to get a mobile phone at the age of 10 or 11 or even younger, these people are now 20, and let's see what problems we have there. Now we're starting to talk about controlling and regulating and so on. They will have different effects for the youngsters when they're 20 and 25. Very difficult to say, but if you compare it to other phenomena like cigarettes or so on, we're going to have to learn what the damage is and how to try to stop it. But you're not going to stop it completely. There's still 25% of the population who smokes cigarettes, and we all know that cigarettes are bad. I guess with this kind of technology, some people will use it correctly and some people won't. But over time, may be reduced to a lesser number than what we have now.
952-78-4000. Joe, you're going to say something there?
Well, I'm comfortable that we underestimate the resilience of young people. I mean, certainly young people now drink less and smoke less than we did when we were young, at least where I grew up in the West of Scotland. They have changed, things happen, and you're talking about the long-term effects, but the medical studies I've seen so far haven't shown anything dramatic that's happened to young people over the period of time. There are individual little niche groups that has been an effect, but the majority of young people have not been disturbed or become mentally ill or etc. So I just feel that be careful or be cautious about overreacting to what's going on here. But certainly the Australian government think it's serious, so let's see what happens.
Sorry, I was going to say there is a report saying that youngsters now, the attention span of a youngster is very, very short. It takes only a few minutes. When they go to school or university, more to the point, if you have a lesson that lasts an hour and you have an attention span of 4 minutes, that might have a big impact on your education if you cannot concentrate for an hour during on a class before you have a break. So all of these things are quite dangerous.
Insidious. You think there's going to be an insidious effect because the attention span of certain young people getting so they won't be able to study because they can't hold the attention for long enough?
But that's what the report I read, and it was a national newspaper.
I
don't have children, and I'm not teaching anymore. So.
Well, I've got grandchildren at university, and they can certainly keep their attention for more than 4 minutes. I don't know what group of youngsters can only pay attention for 4 minutes. It may be the boring adults I have to listen to, they drift off.
Talking of which, we're going to take a quick break and then back with more Viewpoint.
Talk Radio Europe.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Okay, I don't know what happened there. Anyway, voted no confidence in the French Parliament is likely, and the NATO Secretary-General, Mark Rutte, says Vladimir Putin is ramping up his reckless actions and is not interested in peace.
I'm laughing because as it came on the screen, you slow down because the last few words weren't there. So sorry, that's a little...
I think you're laughing at Putin.
Also for the listeners, to let them know that Giles has changed his hat.
Yes, indeed. It's very important. It's very important because I need to change my hat because of the lighting up here, and obviously it will be reflecting off my bald bonds. And I told you about presenters who are bald and names begin with G. Do you want to talk about the Gregoire situation? Or do you think this is all sort of too much froth? And this is, of course, the under fire, claiming under siege presenter on British TV MasterChef. Now, I don't watch reality TV shows. I'm not a big thing of MasterChef or Dancing on Ice or Strictly, but it seems to be, in my honest opinion, we seem to be having an awful lot of people saying, the presenters or especially this Strictly Come Dancing thing, Miren que bailar, whatever it is in Spain, we seem to have this problem with people saying they've been abused or they've been inappropriate remarks. The thought struck me on the drive down this morning. Perhaps it's this kind of show that has these sort of problems, whereas I don't know. You know how this problem on Mastermind, for goodness sake. So what's going on?
Well, I couldn't see it happening with news programs or with plays that have been rehearsed, etc. But it has been said.
It happens with news presenters. Was it Huey or Hugh or
Hugh? No, that wasn't.
He was a news presenter. So.
Yeah, but that wasn't in the studio. Giles was talking about what's going on in the studio, and there are rumours that it wasn't just Greg Wallace doing it. The whole production team were at it. The cameraman were effing blind and people like that, and contestants on the show. Somebody said the first show they did, they nearly never went back again. It was so toxic, the atmosphere. But Greg Wallace is just an example of a sad old man who hasn't actually realised what the world has moved on. You can't keep making jokes like you're on a building site.
Gordon Ramsay. Okay, it's 20 years since he hit with Kitchen Nightmares, where it's called. Again, I don't watch these programs, but Ramsay's Kitchen. If people are getting offended by. Okay, I'm the generation that grew up with Loaded magazine back in the 90s in London. It was all that whole New Lad situation. Cool, Oasis, Blur, New Lad. And we are probably the same age. But I certainly don't behave like a teenager and go, look at this, whatever on that. So there he's just saying what he shouldn't be saying. But, this is perhaps the problem, but also the fact that with these type of shows and perhaps the society we have now, you have to be so careful of what you're saying because people will get offended. And there was listening to a woman today on one of the programs saying that he'd made some inappropriate comment about a pretty base comment that you wouldn't do if you were a fully formed adult about a present for. She said I had a present for you, and he said, "Is it a present for my?"
Yeah.
Anyway,
I know.
And then she said she went off and she felt the world should open up underneath her, and she went off and cried in the toilets. Now, I'm not saying that that's a hurtful comment, but what I'm saying is, yeah, but if you're going to get upset by people making that sort of comment, then am I digging myself a hole here, panel?
It's about 15 years since I last worked with a big company, a pharmaceutical company, and the stuff I've heard him say would have been it's certainly be a final warning, and many of the things would be instant dismissal. But the BBC is supposed to be allegedly a left-wing organisation. They're still letting this happen, and Greg Wallace has apparently been doing this for more than 10 years, and nobody said anything to him or told him you can't say that. Or like, what's going on? But the sad old man comes out too because he then made this video. I don't know if you saw it on TikTok, saying middle-aged woman of a certain middle class woman of a certain age, and like. You've gone from MasterChef to Masterclass and how not to do anything. Did you not watch Prince Andrew's interview? Have you learned nothing? You don't understand. So not only is he a nasty person, but he's also thick.
But he's gone on today he made another TikTok video to say that the first TikTok video, the balance, he wasn't thinking straight on the whole thing.
My question here.
Yeah, your question.
If it is unacceptable to be a pest. If you're making those sort of comments and jokes constantly, offensive and so on. But my question is, once you do it once or twice or maybe even 3 times, cannot someone call you aside and say, by the way, this is not going down very well, stop it. Yeah. Otherwise there'll be consequences.
That's my point.
And that is the end of the story, and it doesn't go any further. But to let it grow and brew this way, that's when then it becomes
but we've all been in situations with people, perhaps in a when somebody's made an off-colour, I can think back to times when somebody made, and this is going back to the 80s or 90s, somebody would make an off-colour remark that now looks quite shocking, and you would join in because you're one of the boys and you don't want to be the person standing out. And if you've got a celebrity culture, and it's not a BBC production as has been pointed out, it's made by a third party, but there must, if you are the star of these programs, then it takes, and if you are a young if you are working on the team, you're a young person, it's one of your first jobs in the industry, you'll be petrified to call somebody up for that sort of.
But surely the BBC, I mean, I worked in a big corporate company, and we had systems to be able to report difficult situations and so on. Surely the BBC must have a procedure where you can make.
That's what baffles me. Why not have it?
So if that happens, you follow the procedure that may have in place. I'm sure they have one, and then you say, look, this guy is making comments, I don't like them, can someone have a word with him? I don't want to have a word myself because I'm only a trainee producer or whatever, but someone above me can sort of have a word on my behalf.
There were people above it. Wasn't just the end of the story. It wasn't just juniors. I mean, Kirsty Allsop complained, Rod Stewart complained. Now, Rod Stewart's untouchable compared to most of the BBC guys, and he said, "You bull-headed bully, the way you treated my wife." He posted that somewhere, I don't know where. But so there were people with status who were complaining as well. But maybe it's retrospective, I don't know. But people in the BBC, somewhere along the line, must have been something senior enough to say, this is not acceptable, because his other partner, John, what's it called, Dimmo? His other partner, they said he was like a gentleman. So, and I'd heard before the two of them didn't go on anyway. So Greg Wallace is kind of a working class grocer who's gone on and thinks he's still with the boys down the market or whatever.
And he's playing that image.
No, sorry, you're on, this is the BBC, you can't talk to women like that.
This coming, guys. Like that. The guys, this is in the WhatsApps. Morning, Jay. This happens everywhere in every industry, and since time immemorial. If I had £1 for every inappropriate comment made to me in the workplace in the 80s and 90s, I'd be a millionaire. So. This is.
I totally agree. I mean, I even had my own experience working in a big company in the UK when we had regional managers meetings, and someone would make the comment, when it was my time to speak, you would hear the comment in the background saying, "Oh, here's Manuel again," referring to the Fawlty Towers waiter, because I was from Barcelona, and I've heard it that many times. I was never offended.
Go to the toilet and cry.
I thought they were idiots, but I was never offended because generally my figures were better than theirs. So, but in any case, it's just the kind of thing that, I mean, you can be, I mean, now if I wanted to be offended, but it's much easier to be offended. What I'm trying to say is it's much easier to be offended now than years ago, but we all heard things everywhere.
Same thing happened with Top Gear and Clarkson at the time. Procedures exist, but doesn't mean a complaint is upheld. That's all he is, Jerry, a fat grocer. So there you go. 952 78 4000 is the phone number if you want to get involved with today's show and get your viewpoint across.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Those are the numbers. Jerry, you were supposed to come in on something, are you?
Sorry, I was just talking about in the 90s, friends who worked in the city, and I was working for a pharmaceutical company, and the things they told me happened in the city, I was just stunned, because we would be sacked for doing that. So different industries have evolved at different places, and then they went into the army and the police and the fire brigade last year. They were saying sexism still rife, etc. So different parts of society or different industries have evolved at different rates, and I think it's more of a risk in a very male environment, but the BBC is not a male environment, and there's no reason he should have been able to do what he did for over 10 years. It's just not credible.
But what is clear is that it is unacceptable to be a pest, and I think everyone knows when they've crossed the line, and if you keep doing it on a regular basis, crossing the line, I mean, it's that you're an idiot. because you might cross a line and you made a mistake, and then you realize, oh, I've gone a little bit too far with these, and then you pull back. I guess this is acceptable, but just being an idiot constantly, and for such a long time, because I think the first complaints date back to 2011. Is that correct? Or
yes, certainly more than 10 years.
So if you're an idiot constantly, at some point, someone, and I hear you have to hold the BBC responsible for it, to have a system in place to be able to pull someone aside and say, look, this is not acceptable. If he carries on like this, you're out. And then you sort of close that door and problem solved. But that obviously hasn't been done, and he's gone this far now that the guy then had to be sacked from the programme, and now the question is whether they will continue to air the programme, which, if you ask me, they shouldn't, because it's a rubbish programme.
Yeah, but somebody said they should have had a health warning, an advisory warning, before it went out, saying this programme featured Greg Wallace. Really, honestly, really, that's what I was saying.
It doesn't do it on screen.
Yeah, I know, but you see, the thing, again, have we gone so far down the rabbit hole here that the mere appearance, and it's coming up for Panto season, the mere appearance of Greg Wallace as a pantomime villain, perhaps, type character will set people off. I mean, being triggered.
I have to confess, we watched MasterChef last night because he was on it. I haven't watched it for years.
Well, you're looking for clues or something.
Yeah, I know. But the other thing about him is, going back to the point, it's like, he really didn't get it, because he would never made that TikTok thing. Like that was a masterclass in how not to dig deeper in a hole. And the points he was making were like, well, you just made yourself even worse. Like, I can't believe you said that.
Looking at some of the comments coming in, we get quite a few WhatsApps. If you want to get your comments in on this one, here's the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And the WhatsApp. So, going to the WhatsApp, nobody reports as they're scared for their jobs. Look at the recent debacle at Red Bull Racing. Okay. Paul says, Greg Wallace is an immature misogynist and an idiot. As you can see, the light from certain media with another excuse to bash the BBC. This in Cookie, good morning to you. Working in corporate London for years, so many sexual and inappropriate comments. I just let it go over my head. Worst was when I was a medical rep for a pharmaceutical company. A GP touched my face and said, "You're a pretty little thing." Never. Did that ever happen to you? You get touched in the face and told it was a pretty thing?
No, and I didn't do it to anyone else either.
No, right, okay. Cookie, we're sorry about that. I didn't mean that. It was just, obviously that happened to me either.
Yeah, but
I've not finished. But
sorry.
No, please, Andreas.
No.
Come on,
I don't want to interrupt the director of the programme.
Exactly. Careful of the bald-headed presenters with a name that begins with G. I tell you that. That's why I put my baseball cap on. Greg, this is in from Dawn. Greg Wallace's problem is a power thing, as he's the star of the show. I don't know what you mean, Dawn. Ordinary day-to-day situations when someone starts behaving in the Benny Hill manner. Maybe men should unite against the ignorance and point it out. Doesn't have to be confrontational, and hopefully, if this becomes mainstream, the problem will phase out. Having said this, seen a few intimidated women on hen nights in the Costa del Sol as well. Thank you. Morning, all. Is it the whole story and stories like this nothing but dead cats? I'm listening again to one of the most tedious stories of the moment when the news focus should be on Ukraine, Gaza, health, unemployment, poverty, etc. Just saying it is all. Agree with the Spanish guy. That's from John in Norfolk. Thank you very much for that, John. Just trying to... We try and keep a balance here, and it's an issue that people are obviously feeling about because they're saying this. No staff... no one has the right not to be offended. No staff reported because most are not employees of the BBC or the production company on a short-term contracts and value their income more than getting sacked for making a complaint. Good point. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Right then, going to go for the last break of this morning's Viewpoint, then we're into the last 10 minutes.
Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe with
Giles Brown.
Always live, into the last 10 minutes of this morning's show. If you want to get your viewpoint across.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And this in from Liz in Brighton. Hi there, Giles. The BBC problem is partly due to amateurs doing professional tasks. The amateurs do not realise the amount of effort and passion necessary to be a professional. Dancing, gymnastics, etc., etc. The BBC commissioned the programme and had no say in the production. Right then, I think shall we? Do you want to? What else would you like to talk about? Panel, are you still?
Just one question: do you think that the BBC should still go ahead with the Christmas edition of MasterChef with Greg Wallace on it?
Well, I mean,
but the BBC's point.
You need a pantomime villain, don't you? Yeah. So it can be the scary. It can be the. Look out! He's behind you with the crockpot.
Pantomime season, yeah,
exactly.
But the BBC's point, and I think it's valid, is these young chefs. It's a really important part of their career, and then to suddenly pull it after they've gone all that way to get to the finals, because that is the finals, it would be devastating for them. So, all right, I'll kind of sympathise with that.
Well, I mean, life's not fair, Jerry. Here we are.
Yeah, but I mean, come on.
I've only just learned that at the age of 75.
Yeah. Well, luckily, they're living a regular prayer.
It is quite interesting that the figures on Strictly and MasterChef
have gone through. Yeah,
the viewing figures have gone up since the scandal.
Of course, that's what I'm confessing. I watched it last night for the first time for years.
You did. So how many millions out there they're doing? Red flag. I said, I'm going to watch it now.
Red flag, Greg. Right to the lines we go. 952 784 4000. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Hi, Giles, it's Teresa.
Hello, Teresa.
Are we really going to believe the BBC didn't know what he was? Because it seems impossible that he's been doing that for such a long time and nobody knew. It's just that nobody cared until they got called out for it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're spot on, because I was just saying before, I subscribe to several sort of news, shall we say, underground news sites, and there were loud whispers, shall we say, on Wiles's behaviour.
Exactly, but nobody cared. It's like the post office scandal. Nobody cared until it was a TV show.
Yeah.
Until things get publicity, nobody cares. And I think Andreas is spot on with, it wasn't. It was a lady who said, it's stopping, it's a dead cat.
It's a dead cat.
It's stopping us looking important in the world. Because we're all worried about whether he put a sock on his willy. I mean, really.
I didn't know that, but thank you for... I was unaware of that particular development, Teresa, but thank you.
There's been cartoon jokes about that on Facebook, yeah.
Teresa, I know nothing about this. Can you elaborate a bit?
I'd really rather not. The thought of it makes me want to hear.
And you're driving as well, so please, let's get... Indeed. Look at you singing that.
All right, then. I hope you can get that image out of your minds for later.
No, probably not. I should probably wake up screaming. Hope you're using a hands-free set. Right then, thank you for the call in.
Just bringing things home again to Spain. Yeah. And it's funny, he said that apparently there was something that it was well known in the circle of the BBC and so on. Recently in Spain, we've had the case of this politician from the extreme left party of Sumar, quite a prominent figure in Parliament.
The new party, the new one.
And their flagship was equality of women and how to treat women, the inclusive language and all of these things, only to turn out that this guy had been known in the party for being a pest with women and had serious allegations against him. The party didn't do anything about it until he had to come out and say there is the character, me as a politician, and the person, and they're two different people living in one body as such, and he had to resign and everything. But that is apparently the big problem. Is not that the guy came out as such to say, yes, I am guilty of being a pest and following women and touch them up and everything inappropriately and everything else, is that the party, the flagship was feminism, knew about it and they hid it. So how much hypocrite can
it's like Podemos, get? It's like the leader of Podemos having a 5-bedroom or 6-bedroom, whatever villa it was in La Districta, wasn't it? It wasn't the ex-leader of Podemos.
Pablo Iglesias.
Pablo Iglesias.
But this, I mean, the thing is not the guy. Obviously, was a pest and an idiot and everything else. But the whole thing is that the party didn't have anything in place to remove him, and in fact, they hit the abuse to women, and they made them look really, really stupid in front of the public opinion, saying you're saying one thing and doing another, and it seems to me that this is what's happening for what you're saying here now in the BBC, where everybody knew that he was a pest, but nobody did anything about it until everything blew up.
So this is a quick one here saying they should show the MasterChef for Christmas because no crime has been committed. So there you go.
That's true.
Exactly. Cookie's come up with the absolute. Cookie's come up with a winning comment here today. Bring back Lloyd Grossman, MasterChef, because he was the original. Lloyd Grossman did the original MasterChef. Through the keyhole. Here you go. Hannah and Selena are the experts on this, obviously, but Lloyd Grossman coming back.
Hannah should do MasterChef, I think.
Hannah and PJ should do MasterChef. Now that would be, but the problem is PJ wouldn't be able to cook. PJ would be too hands-on in terms of, because he's a MasterChef himself.
Yeah.
And if you've seen pictures of him doing We Are the World.
Yeah, I get them on Facebook. Yeah,
indeed. And thank you. Just if you don't know, if you heard an involuntary sort of gag reflex, that was because Jerry just showed me a cartoon of the aforementioned Greg and the sock Woody combination. So there you go. Into the last 2 minutes.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I know.
He's coming out of Greg's. He's coming out of Greg's.
I got that first time around.
Stop it yet. Jerry, Teresa's still driving.
If you should see a Cinquecento driving erratically...
She's looking for a Greg's.
Indeed. Lloyd Grossman is too busy making pasta sauces at a loss. Thank you very much for that one. In the last minute and a half of this morning's Viewpoint. So... Panel, any final thoughts on what we've had today? Apart from pardons, we've had social media 16, and we've had Greg Gate, basically.
Yeah.
Which leaves a bad taste in your Christmas turkey.
It's a good start to Advent.
Yeah, I know I'm Greg about that as well, but I can't say it on air anyway. So, so with the festive season coming up, may I be the first to wish you both a very merry, as we're in the season. Of course, if you're a freelancer, of course, this is the time of year you dread most, because if you haven't got your money in by the 6th through the 8th of December, you can kiss it goodbye until after Three Kings.
It hasn't been a very festive programme, I have to say. But the good news is that we have bank holidays coming up in Spain, so we have a long weekend ahead.
Monday's a holiday, isn't it, as well?
Good news for everyone.
Immaculate Conception, yeah.
They can take the time off. Yes, very much looking to a festive season ahead.
And Happy New Year to you all.
It's a bit
2025 is great.
I might get you on before then. Right then, this is thank you very much for all your comments in. For making Viewpoint the show that it is today. My thanks to my guest, Andres Gallardo.
Thank you very much, Giles.
And Dr. Jerry Hagan.
Thank you, Giles. It was fun.
It was indeed, a wide range of subjects covered indeed. This show is going to be repeated again at 7 o'clock this evening. Everybody's in their usual places, which means that Hannah's with TRE in the afternoon. Selena brings us the Lifestyle Show. Howard's with us at 6 o'clock. But Stephen Ritson and Europe Today is up next. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. I'll see you tomorrow.
Views expressed on Viewpoint by invited studio guests and callers do not constitute an opinion endorsed in any way by Talk Radio Europe.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this program, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit tre.radio.